Got this 2014 Malibu dropped off here at Tech Garage. The symptoms, it starts, sometimes runs great. Sometimes it doesn't start. Sometimes it misfires and runs really, really bad. It's got 75,000 miles. That's kind of a clue. Wants to run there, then it doesn't want to run. And sometimes it just wants to sputter. Kind of crazy. Clue is you got to check engine light on. Well, I'm glad that Brian Gregory's back for another season because we're going to get in here in Tech Garage. We're going to diagnose and repair this Malibu today on Tech Garage. Welcome to another great season of Tech Garage, brought to you by rockauto.com. And I got to tell you, I'm more excited than ever. We're going to stay true to our roots, man. Diagnostics and repair on everyday vehicles, empowering you to work on your car. Brian, and there's so much more.
Absolutely. Folks, we're keeping it real yet again this year. John, one of the things I'm most excited about in this year's segments is the video question of the week. At the end of each show, we're going to be working on a 97 Firebird throughout the entire season. All kinds of teaching moments for all of us in there. Really excited about that.
Yeah, it's an awesome platform, great to teach with. Speaking of teaching, we're introducing a new segment called Garage Ed. This is pretty cool because we're going to actually go through electrical through the whole season, and you're going to see the coolest demos on the planet. You asked for it. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, we're giving it to you right here. But you know, time's money. Tech Garage, we're all about money, man. Let's get to it. We got a Malibu here. This thing's actually crank installing. You saw it a little bit earlier, Brian. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what, the code you got is significant. It's a throttle body actuator code, not that fancy of a scan tool. Anybody can collect that code, but it does tell us we've got to start here at the throttle body. So I've got the plenum cover off. We're going to dive into cleaning that, going through the steps it takes there to see what's really going on here.
Yeah, and this is huge. It's a P2176. That's an actual throttle actuator code. Brian, anytime you get a throttle actuator code with drive-by-wire, there's problems. There's a lot of communication going on. But this one here, you know, they all usually start with some coking or some buildup, some carbon on there.
Yeah.
And we'll take a look at it. But if you look at this graphic right here, this is actually pretty cool because it's actually in the service manual. It talks a little bit about coking on there. The oil buildup from the PCV valve, the sludge coming up. You know, we're going direct injection now and different fuel methods. That stuff's building up on there a lot more than it used to in the past.
And with all the sensors on today's engine, everything has to be balanced perfectly. And it really starts with the throttle body. And is that plate closed? Is it doing its job? Is the mixture right? All the sensors tell us that. So this guy's got to be functioning properly. So step one is to get this thing cleaned up. There is a TSB on this. It says clean it first before you jump into any kind of replacement or procedure. So I'm going to get that done.
Time's money. I'll get a demo set up that's showing actually what's going on. You get to work.
Awesome. Okay, step one is to get a good look at the throttle body and gain access. We've taken the plenum cover off, and you can see the throttle body right here. You can actually look down inside and see the heavy carbon tracking that's going on down there. Now, something to consider before you use just any throttle body cleaner is do the legwork and homework and figure out what type of cleaner you need for your vehicle. On Fords, for example, there's actually a varnish or a clear coat inside there to keep the carbon from building up to begin with. Use the wrong stuff, you're going to remove that, then you're going to have an ongoing carbon problem. So we've got the right stuff here from CRC and Rock Auto. You can see the carbon tracking now. If yours has a lot and you're afraid of chunks coming off and going down into the throat down in there into the intake, go ahead and open the plate, take a paper towel, put it down in there to catch anything, and then you can pull that back out. But make sure you can get all of that paper towel out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some of the spray. You're going to see a big difference right here. Look at that coming right off the walls. Now pretty quickly, I'm going to go in and get that, wipe it down. You can see the bottom part shining right up. You can actually see the evidence on the rag. That little bit of carbon, you wouldn't think it makes a difference, but it really does in today's engines with all the sensoring going on. Let me hit it again up top. Clean this. Now I'm going to show you the part that really matters. So on the plate, the edges can build up carbon. Let me open that for you. Now this doesn't look too bad, but what I'm going to do is hit the cleaner on the rag and wipe this gently. Now this is a fly-by-wire system, doesn't have a mechanical linkage. You don't want to overbear here and bend anything. That plate, you'll see why in a minute, has to line up right back for your idle learn position. The bottom, can't get to it the same way, but I'm going to get what I can on the top. I'm going to get down in as far as I can reach, and the carbon is coming up nicely. and that looks pretty good. Now, this vehicle has a technical service bulletin on it which says clean the throttle body first before jumping into a replacement. So my next step is to reset the idle learn so it knows where to be, take it for a test drive, and John's going to show us why carbon builds up to begin with.
Well, carbon buildup and coking, what's actually going on that throttle body? Only on Tech Garage are we going to look inside of the engine and the different actual fuel injection systems and show you why. Let's start out with this first graphic. Now, this first graphic, it's a carburetor. Everybody's familiar with a carburetor. You can see it's actually dumping the fuel up above the throttle plates. I got one right here, and you can see the carburation here, and if I open up the throttle plates, they're located right there. Well, we didn't have much of a problem down there because the fuel and air was washing over those throttle plates and keeping them clean. Now what's going on? It's going down into here. Now check this out. If I run this down, the exhaust stroke, and then I come over and the intake stroke. So the intake valve's opening. Well, so are all the other ones during the other stroke. So a lot of the carbon's getting pushed up in there. With that system, we're just washing it right back down. Next, take a look at this next graphic. This is an actual throttle body injection. Now a throttle body injection, really cool. You got an injector up here. We went to computer command control, but I'm dumping fuel and air still going over the throttle plates right there. So we didn't have an issue there as well because we're washing everything down into the cylinders. A lot of the buildup's not occurring. Then what we did, we actually went to multi-port injection. Check out that graphic right there. Although we're not going above the throttle plates, we're actually still washing over the valve, above the valve. The fuel's then going in, coming through the valve and entering the cylinder right there. Multi-port injection, each one. We're washing the top of the cylinders and we're not getting a lot of that carbon blowing up through the system, back into the intake manifold, coking up that throttle plate. Now, what's going on with the newer cars? Actually, direct injection. You can see it right here. I'm going into the cylinder directly. Well, here's our problem. If I'm going directly into the cylinder, I'm not have any fuel on the top of these valves. I'm not washing the valves or I'm not sending any fuel up in the system. So every time these other valves open, some of the carbon gets puffed up into that intake along with oil throughout the system. The PCV valve, that gets on that throttle plate. It starts to coke and you got what Brian has right there. Now, Brian's hard at work cleaning that. He's going to take it for a test drive. We're going to see if we fixed it, but I'll tell you what, it's going to be wide open throttle right after the break. So stick around. There's plenty more Tech Garage brought to you by rockauto.com.
Tech Garage presented by rockauto.com is brought to you by Borla, the world's most winning exhaust. Steel Rubber Products, quality crafted rubber parts and weather stripping. And by rockauto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, brought to you by rockauto.com. Well, went out for the test drive and got the same exact code again, the P2176. So what that does is clarifies the problem. The problem is actually the throttle body actuator here on the old throttle body. We're going to need to replace this. Now, we followed the technical service bulletin steps, tried to clean this guy, didn't work, time to replace it. Rock Auto has sent us a whole new throttle body. You'll see here, I'm keeping the cover on it because I don't want any contamination while I'm getting ready to install this. 4 new bolts come with it. There's washers there as well. And most importantly, replace the seal. You'll see where it goes here in a second. Replace this. When I pull the old one out, I can feel a dry, kind of brittle feel to it. A lot of heat cycles on this guy. Very simple to do. Another best practice. Down here at the intake, you want to put a rag in here and protect anything from going down inside. Now I've got this whole area wiped down. You can see there was sand and dirt. That's out of the way. I'll reinstall the new seal. Only goes in one way. Work it down in gently. It's all good. Now keep in mind, this is aluminum bolting into plastic. You don't want to overbear anything here, and you got to torque this properly. It only goes on one way. Line your bolts up. Be sure you don't cross thread here. Take your time, get them all started. And there's only one electrical connection. Very, very simple. It clicks on. Be sure you set that lock as well. And I'm going to go ahead and get this guy reinstalled. Then I'm going to torque it down. That's not the complex part of this repair. The hard part is getting this fly-by-wire system relearned. John, you got to show us how all that works.
That drive-by-wire versus cable and that idle learn business, what's that all about? Well, let's take a look at it. We're all familiar with the cable, man. You just push the gas pedal. What was going on? You had a cable right here. We would move it back and forth. Pretty simple. You got a throttle position sensor right there, and important, you have an idle air control motor. Well, why is that important? Because if you have a cable, this guy's actually slamming completely closed. The idle was controlled by the idle air control motor and bypassing it into the engine. Now, on the system we're working on, a little bit different. You can actually see the throttle plates right here. Now, the throttle plates are cracked open. There's a percentage for that. Once you get that coking and you get that buildup on there, it's actually going to change the airflow. The computer knows it, bam, there's our code, there's our problem. This has to be precise. Now, it's pretty cool because you have an accelerator pedal position sensor right here, and you have an actual throttle position sensor with a stepper motor. So what's going on? You push it, computer decides where you want it, it opens up that throttle. It puts it right where you want it. You have no control over it whatsoever. Safe? Yeah, it's real safe. Matter of fact, it's going to be as safe as our Malibu Brian's carrying on with.
Wait for it, you're going to see it and hear it. There it is. 89 inch-pounds at all four corners. I tightened that down in an X pattern to pull it down evenly. Notice I haven't yet taken the cover off the new throttle body. I'm doing everything I can to keep that environment clean. Now, one more tip as part of this job. Replace the air filter. Everywhere the nose of this vehicle has ever gone and will go, it comes in through the air filter and ultimately down through this throat. So go ahead and upgrade that. I'm going to grab one from the Rock Auto stash in the back. But for now, it's time to relearn this. Now, that's the hard part. Hey, John, you got a hand? I'd love some help here.
Man, I actually brought in the big guns now. You can actually do this procedure, Brian. Sometimes just crank a car up, let it idle for 3 minutes. I mean, that even talks about it with this one. But we're going to go ahead and do an idle learn here. Check your manufacturer service manual and see which one you do. Simply is just go into special test. If I scroll down in the special test right here, you can actually see it's got an idle learn reset. Well, that's pretty cool. I'll just hit idle learn reset. Go ahead and hit it. And what it's going to do, it's go ahead and load in the data. We're looking at some of that stuff I talked about earlier right here. Go ahead and do the idle learn test. There it goes. Bam. It's actually talking to the computer, the accelerator pedal position sensor, the throttle position sensor, and it says, hey, I'm happy.
Everything's lined back up, so I can take the cover off. Now, just visually, I can tell that plate looks like it's where it's supposed to be, but that's not enough, right? You got to actually measure it specifically through this gauge and getting it reset.
And that's what it's doing. We looked at the actual idle air control versus that APP, and you know, it's a little bit different, but it's not scary. You can do these jobs. This car here, well, it's chock full of electricity. I mean, there's a lot to it, so we're going to go with that as well. Brian, there's only a little left. What is left?
Very simple from here. We'll reinstall that engine cover. There's a rubber boot that goes around here with a good clamp. Got to make sure that's tight. Get the air duct pathway tightened back up, and we're good for the next test drive, man.
Well, this car's full of electricity, and so is our Garage Ed segment coming up after the commercial. Stick around. There's plenty more. Check Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by RockAuto.com. Well, you the people have spoken, we heard you. All the social media posts about the cool demos and all the educational tools and the hows and whys, well, we're introducing a brand new segment called Garage Ed. And I'm not Ed, but I'll tell you what, we're going to look at some components that are really cool, and we're going to take it through electrical. This whole thing, think about it. Cars are all electronic today. They're even driven electronically. You shift your transmission right here. What are you doing? Well, you're sending a signal to a valve body with some shift solenoids. You hit your gas pedal. You got no control over the throttle. Electronic signal once again to an actual throttle body, opening and closing the throttle. Your wheels are spinning. They're looking at the actual wheel speed. Your brakes are braked electronically today. And let's not forget about the engine. Everything's controlled electronically. So this season, we're going to take you through electrical. We're going to take you through amps, volts. We're going to take you through relays, wires, starters, batteries, alternators, everything you want to know about electrical. Where do we start? Well, voltage. Let's start with voltage. That's the basics. Voltage is pressure, electromotive force. It's a potential difference between the positive and the negative terminals. And I can demonstrate it with water. If I fill up this vat with water, what we're doing is the water is actually making pressure. The more water, the more pressure. Now, in your car, you have an alternator right there. That's a mechanical pressure maker. That's going to make the pressure when the car's running. We're going to use that. And you also have a battery, which is an electrochemical pressure maker. Now you see the pressure here, it starts to build up the more we have. Now you're going to have to join us next week because I'm going to pull this plug. We're going to talk about current and we're going to talk about some resistance. Now voltage, take a look at this graphic. We can measure voltage a couple of ways. The first one we can do is voltage at the point. Now if I take my meter and I put it over here at volts, this is DC voltage. I have a cool board set up right here and I have a light bulb burning. So if I go right here to this point and then I come over here and I just touch ground, you can see at that point, I actually have 12.51. That's going to the light bulb. Now on the other graphic, this is actually voltage drop. If I go across the light bulb right here and I measure that from the positive to the negative side, it's dropping 12.51 because it has to use all electricity. This light bulb's an actual load in the circuit. Now this DVOM's cool. I got one right here from Rock Auto, or you can use a test light. I don't like to use that on computer circuits, but I also got this at rockauto.com. Just stick it in there right there. Shows if you have power. Over here on the ground side, nothing's going through because that light bulb used up that electricity. Now on the other hand, only at Tech Garage I wanted to show you what electricity actually looks like. So follow me over here, and I got two boards here. This is how your car actually functions. This is an ignition system. Over here we have a Hall effect switch, which is a DC signal, up and down actual square wave. This one happens to be an AC signal. So I'm going to fire it up for you. And when I fire it up, you can see it's actually spinning. It's a Hall effect switch. So if you look down here on the oscilloscope, you can see that square wave. If I speed it up, it's actually tighten it up, and I loosen it up there, go a little bit slower. Now on the other hand, this one over here, this is an actual AC signal, alternating currents, voltage nevertheless, but you can see it's pulsing up and down here. If I speed it up, it goes tighter. Now this one's susceptible to an air gap, so if I reach down here and I open it and I close it, it has to be adjusted accordingly. Now that's how your car functions with electricity. I got these sensors at rockauto.com. Everything you see on the table is at rockauto.com. It's amazing actually what they have on their website. Tom Taylor from rockauto.com is actually joining us. Let's go over to the table and look and see how we can use their website. Well, Tom, I'm glad to see you're dressed appropriately for our Garage Ed segment. I mean, we look like doctors. We're ready to go.
Yeah,
but you know, it never ceases to amaze me. All those electrical components and test equipment, it's all on rockauto.com. Show our viewers what we can find on rockauto.com.
Well, for specific cars, we have, you look up your make, your year, your model, and then we have the car divided up into different categories. The parts you'd expect, exhaust, electrical, brakes. So you can quickly find the category of parts you need. And electrical, we have quite a few choices. We have electrical bulb and socket, electrical connector, electrical switch and relay. And then a lot of the tools you showed over there, we have in a category called Tools and Universal Parts, a tab at the top of the screen here. And there you can find the multimeter, the test lights. And I want to emphasize, it looks really high tech over there, but a lot of that test equipment is less than $20.
Also, when you go to the actual car itself, when we look at those components, that electrical section had kind of a subcategory with a lot of electrical parts in it as well.
Right, and as you mentioned, brakes, steering, sections you might not think have electrical, you'll find electrical parts in there also.
We got plenty more to come. I mean, there's a lot on Rock Auto. We're going to take electrical through this whole segment, Garage Ed. It's really cool. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to look at the video email question of the week. And you probably were wondering why that Firebird's back there. Well, that's our test car for the whole season. It's going to be good. Stick around. There's plenty more Tech Garage presented by rockauto.com.
Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com, is brought to you by Custom Auto Sound, the originator of classic car OEM fit radios since 1977. Mobile Environmental Solutions, the leading portable mobile paint booth. And by rockauto.com, all the parts your car will ever need.
Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by rockauto.com. Now, Brian, one of our favorite segments of the video question of the week. We love them. Keep them coming. And this season, we're actually going to utilize this Firebird to answer them all on. It's a perfect platform. Roll it.
Hey, John and Brian. My oil light keeps coming on, and my engine's running fine. Sometimes it goes down to 0. Should I keep driving it? It's not knocking. What do you guys think?
Matt, the first thing is to make sure you have the proper amount of oil in your crankcase to do any testing.
Yeah, and you know what's in order is a manual oil pressure gauge reading, because you have an electrical and you also have a manual portion of this system.
Yeah, we've got the oil pressure sending unit switch right here above the filter. Very easy to disconnect the harness. I'm going to go ahead and back it out. You know how O2 sensors require a special socket? Same on these units.
Yeah, and I have a gauge right here. You can actually see it, and we were talking about electromechanical gauge. This is pretty cool because on this side, you actually have the oil coming from the block right above the oil filter adapter, pushing on this little sensor right here, a little Wheatstone bridge, which varies a resistance or a value and actually tells if it's on or off. So that's how the gauge works, Brian. You got it right there.
Yeah, right there. You can see that the action happens inside. That's the magic. Now to get this pressure gauge connected, a little bit of a reach. Thank goodness we're down low here on the lift. You get that started, and what we're going to do is Hossam's up top. We're going to have him crank it, turn it over a little bit, and we're going to get oil. We should get an oil pressure reading pretty quickly if everything's working.
All right, so I got it in there. You can actually see the gauge, what we're looking for. You know, look at your service manual, but hopefully 40, 50, 60. Go ahead and crank it up, Hossam. All right, we got about 75. That's good. Go ahead, shut it off. That's nice. Now, if you had oil pressure like that, Matt, and the lights coming on, it's probably either the sensor or the wire harness. If you don't have oil pressure,
don't go anywhere.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Absolutely. Hey, the MALIBU, wow, the throttle body. Took it on a test drive, cleared the codes. You know, you went on that short test drive and it came right back. I went pretty far, no problem, idling great. Man, we got that one whooped.
Great. You know what? The job wasn't all that hard to do. It was the relearning that throttle body plate that was the key to that repair. I love that.
Yep. Unfortunately, we're out of time for today. So follow us on Facebook, Twitter. Look us up, man. We love the questions. We love the comments. But we'll be back next week with more Tech Garage presented by RockAuto.com right here at Chipola College Luxurious Tech Garage Studios.
Production assistance for Tech Garage is provided by Chipola College, located in Marianna, Florida. Founded in 1947, Chipola was ranked recently as one of the top 3 community colleges in the United States.